Welcome back to Junction 119. This is Kellen.
This is Kaysen.
And this is Matt.
Yes, he's back. Matt Beneke is here for what is, like, on paper, our 50th episode, which Kaysen just so very smartly pointed out right before I hit the record button that it is technically episode 51, and that's just going to be a technicality throughout the entirety of us like doing this and numbering these episodes. Matt, welcome to the Two Timers Club, my friend.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's an elite group for sure.
Kaysen, how are you doing? We haven't had a show in a couple of weeks, and a whole bunch of stuff happened.
Yeah. I guess that's what I get for going on vacation during opening week of March Madness. That's on me.
Hey, nothing wrong with a spring vacation, though. I'm also a big fan of the place you visited. I won't say what it was in case you don't want to say it, but
yeah, it is. It's a magical land in California. We'll say that. Yeah, but I think there was some celebration going on as well with St. Patrick's Day and another important day to somebody here on the show.
yeah, I crossed a milestone. I'm now 30 years old. I have no issue just saying that right here on the show. I'll say this. It's funny because I was thinking, I had a lot of people ask me like, "Oh, does it feel like a milestone birthday?" I mean, like, I guess it is for young people, but I guess it's how you perceive it. I mean, like, you're not legally an adult, 18. You can't, like, legally, drink. 21, 25. What, you can rent a car? Like 30 people are just wondering, like, oh no, like, you're getting old. It's like, yeah, but 30, you're still incredibly young.
Mhm.
And in some ways, I'm like, I've told a lot of people, I'm like, your 30s on paper are going to be better than your 20s, right? Because you can actually, like, you're more established. You're still really young. So,
Yeah.
anyway, yes, those two things happened. Thank you, Kaysen. And thank you, Matt, as well. You both wished me happy birthday.
I I would be remiss if I didn't mention the other person's birthday that's also on the show today.
Help me out.
What do you mean?
I'm
Matt.
so confused, Kaysen.
Yeah, I mean a couple weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
well, I mean, it was
Okay.
2 weeks ago, like what, 3 weeks
Sure.
ago, whatever.
I'm already looking forward to the next one. Counting down.
Matt,
Yeah.
now question, Matt, has it been since our last show?
I guess it was a couple days before. But
Okay.
Yeah, it was March 4th, so it would have been.
It's a March
I mean,
birthday
the
is
last
what I
show
was
was
trying to
2 weeks
determine.
ago, I think.
Well, happy
Yeah.
birthday to
Yeah.
you as well, Matt.
Thanks.
Nothing like the March birthday, folks. But yeah, we're here. We're here to discuss some things. A lot of stuff has happened, and we invited Matt on here as a frequent listener and good friend of ours in general to help us break down some things. We are going to talk. This is March to open up. We're going to get into some NFL free agency discussion, and then we're going to, of course, go of the weeks. I got to tell you guys something. I love the opening weekend of March Madness. Really, nowadays, men's and women's are both just fire, the whole thing.
Mhm.
And really, the women's second round is really wrapping up like tonight, like tonight. To obviously staggered a bit from the men's tournament. I'm always a little bummed after it ends, though, because in my opinion, nothing is more fun than the opening weekend, the first two rounds. So now it's like, okay, now we just got like the good teams and, like, if you're lucky, maybe a couple of Cinderellas. And it just kind of felt like this time around, there's only really one Cinderella left, if you want to call them that, NC State. But
Yeah, I was about to say you're probably talking about NC State. Really, it felt like a bunch of favorites won this weekend ultimately.
yeah,
Yeah, which I mean, it is probably for the best if you look at some of the way that the last couple tournaments have gone with like really high seeds going deep into the tournament and then just getting trounced by 50 points. Like, so I mean, you have like first round upsets and then it corrects itself in the round of 32 and then you have basically almost all chalk in the Sweet 16, which leads to some really fun matchups. I mean, we can talk about that later, but I mean, we've got a national championship rematch in the Sweet 16, so that's going to be super fun. So I thought it was a great weekend of basketball. I mean, I know it was heavy on the blowouts, but I think there were some fun moments.
there were. I know we're recording this on a Monday, and I had a couple of chats blowing up last night because Houston nearly lost to Texas A&M.
Yeah,
That was that would have been the first. Anytime the first one goes down, if the first one goes down on the way to the Sweet 16, that's like considered the upset of the tournament, right? That's like the one
Right.
you
Mhm.
remember. And I think I was like, well, they ultimately, when I saw Texas A&M, tied it with the 3 from the top of the key to win it, to take it to overtime, I was like, surely Houston's just going to blow them away now, right? And then blow them away, but they won. I mean, figured that was going to happen. It was the last game of
I
the
mean,
night.
it was very dangerous for them because they had like, was it 3 or 4 guys foul out in overtime,
Mm.
and so they were running pretty thin on the bench, and they were down to some guys who really don't who are really unreliable with free throws, and so they were getting fouled. And this guy who I think who had attempted 4 free throws all season long,
Mm.
ended up bricking a couple, and so it got a little stressful. And I don't know if you guys saw the overtime in that game, but
Saw a bit of it, yes.
in my opinion, I thought A&M blew it because they went for 3 when they probably should have just gone for 2, with the chance to go for another 2 to tie it. But they did not manage the end of that game very well.
Well, what's interesting is when you start to see teams like a Houston, right, in these earlier rounds struggle with some things that A&M was doing at the end of that game, right? It makes you wonder how inevitably they're going to get beaten if they're going to get beaten.
The blueprint, when
Yeah.
when you see a team like Houston or any 1 or 2 seed struggle like that against like an A&M early, and then the blueprint's out. I mean, I mean, anytime any team like that loses during the season or whatnot, you can see what you can do to replicate that. And maybe they go down in the 16. We'll see how far they can make it beyond this point. But
We'll see. But I got to ask both of you guys, how are your brackets doing? I usually only do one a year. So
Jason, go ahead.
well,
don't all jump to answer me first.
yeah, I'm I made a couple, but in the main one that I actually put attention to, I'm in the 95th percentile.
Which
Is that my group?
That's actually the other one, but in that one,
Oh, really?
I'm in the 92nd percentile. Yeah.
who's
I think you're like in second place.
I think they're basically the exact same bracket, except for like 2 things are different.
whose
Sure.
website did you guys make them through?
The ESPN.
ESPN.
I do the ESPN as
Yeah.
well. Okay, cool.
Mhm.
I was just making sure.
Yeah.
If you did use CBS, that's fine too.
On this one, let me see. Yeah, on this one, I think the only winner out of the Sweet 16 that I don't have left is Kentucky.
Okay.
That's the only team that I don't have in here.
Out of 16?
Sorry, I guess you would say out of the Elite 8 teams, the only team
Okay.
I don't have is Kentucky.
I was gonna say that's like you should be getting some money then.
the
What say the percentage again, Kason?
the 95th percentile. It's like ranked a million or something.
Good job,
1.1
man.
million.
That's really good. Just for comparison, I'm in the 82nd percentile. I'm in the 4 millions. So you're like, that's really high, Kason.
I guess
comparison.
out of the 16, so out of all 16, the only teams I'm missing are Kentucky, Baylor, and Duquesne.
Okay.
Because I
Hang on,
I thought
Duquesne
what?
lost. Did you put Duquesne? Illinois
Yeah.
beat Duquesne.
Yeah, I picked them over Illinois.
Cool. Okay.
Or sorry. I guess the only teams I incorrectly picked were Duquesne, Baylor, and Kentucky.
It's pretty good, man. That's
But
Dang.
Matt. How about you?
Yeah, so I'm a crazy person, as I am with all of my sports at all times. So I made 25 brackets, which is the maximum that you're allowed to make.
are
and
like 20 of them random? Like
not all of them. I
Did
did
you,
like
like,
15 like different teams that I
Yeah.
thought like could win it, and then after that I did like the random weighted and like the chalk and all that stuff.
Wait. So how many
Um,
did you consciously fill out of 25?
Probably like 15. Yeah,
Okay.
I do that. But anyway,
okay, real quick. I usually do 2. I do 1 what I think is going to happen, and 1 of stuff I would love to see happen. That's where I put like
That's fair.
upsets galore, and I don't usually do it series. I used to do a lot more like that when I was younger, till I realized this would just drive me insane.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yes, explain the insanity.
Well, yeah. So just like my fourth bracket that I made is my best one so far, apparently. And it's the 93rd percentile, so pretty good. And my champion is Houston, so like they're still in, so that's good. But also the worst bracket that I made, scrolling to the bottom here, is in the 19th percentile, and it also has Houston as the champion.
Interesting.
So that's weird. Yeah.
I get. Yeah, Houston's really holding up all 19% of that one.
No
From
kidding.
the sound of things. That's cool, Matt. So is your philosophy when it comes to it just like the more brackets, the more scenarios, and the more brackets you have in it, one of them is bound to be the one? Like, is that how your thought process?
I never expect to like have a perfect bracket. I just try to see like which one does the best, I guess, kind of competing against myself
I
and like
see.
which time I made it is the best one. I also have my wife fill out one every year, and the first year she did it, she picked Duke and they won. And so now every year since
Nice.
then she's picked Duke because she thinks they're due. So
I mean, hey,
yeah.
not most years, not a bad pick. I'd also like to know if you guys did one for the women's side, because I did one.
I did, yeah.
I did 6
Uh,
of them.
we'll get to that one. Back to the men's.
Sure.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, Matt.
I'm in the 97th percentile on the women's side.
I'm in the 45 percentile. I really, yeah. I mean, my final four is still intact, but I picked a lot. Like, it's a stereotype, but it's kind of true in that there's a lot less upsets typically in the women's side,
Yeah.
mainly just because the games are a lot more fundamental, and the team that is the best typically there's a lot less parity in the sense of not to mention in women's game they stay 4 years, they'll stay 3-4 years, and so the
Mhm.
teams are more from the ground up put together. So when that team is a 1 seed at like 31 wins, and all that, it's like they are that good. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
which is why I don't like philosophy wise, I just definitely did not do as well on that side this year. But but we'll get to that. I will say that I guess what stood out? What were our favorite moments of the opening weekend? The unsung heroes. I have a few, obviously. I'm thinking of.
I mean, do we want to just start off with the obvious? King of Oakland.
Yeah.
Jack Golke. Is that how you say Golke?
Yeah,
Something like that.
and I actually want to double check. I think his name's Jake Golke.
I think it's Jack.
No, you're right. It is Jack Golke.
Yeah.
Jack Golke,
Mr.
draining 10
TurboTax.
threes. Mr. TurboTax. I had a whole conversation with somebody about how, you know what, Intuit TurboTax is genius. Let's just absolutely swamp everyone's TV with our product because hey, it's also tax season. But yeah, really impressive. His performance against Kentucky was really one of those things that was eye-opening, but it was one of those things where two things came to mind. One, a Coach Cal team lost again in the first round to a team that they genuinely looked like I don't want to say they looked bad against it, but the Horizon League was really good this year. So it's not surprising to me that Oakland, a team that like in this neck of the woods where I live, guys, no one had ever heard of before, but obviously all three of us being Bowling Green people, we play them all every year in something up there. And in your guys' neck of the woods, really.
Yeah.
So we're very familiar with that. Usually in basketball, we usually play them anyway.
Right. And you know that they have a Bowling Green connection as well?
I did not. Like the current team?
Their head coach is Greg Campy, and he has been there for 40 years, but he is a Bowling Green alum, and he actually played basketball and football at BG.
That's right. I did see I saw Bowling Green Athletics put that out there.
Yeah,
like,
he's also from a town that's like 15 minutes from where I live.
That's cool.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
So is he close enough to have gone to like your guys' high school / a rival or what?
No, he went to Defiance, and I live in a different town from Defiance in Northwest Ohio. I don't know.
I got you.
I guess I don't want to dox myself, but
no, you're good. You're good. So
yeah,
that's awesome. So really, he's an Ohio guy too. So you have the Oakland and all that going on. It's interesting because I don't know about you guys, but I saw a lot of the conversation of I love mid-major basketball. As I've said on this show before, to me, that's the heart of men's, women's. That's the heart of what makes it a lot of fun to to follow and quite frankly see those teams perform in March. And Oakland over Kentucky is exactly what we needed. I felt the same about Duquesne because I picked Duquesne to win their first game. I don't believe I did not have them in the 16. I actually had Illinois beating them, but that's where like the hero and the unsung stories come from, right? And I heard a lot of discussion this time around of Kentucky or not, you had a team of seniors and older players against a team of freshmen because that's how Coach Cal operates, right? And I don't know. I just felt the conversation around that was really interesting this year, more than other years. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that the conversation over, it's super cool to see guys like Golke and other, 4 or 5 year senior guys that have been there forever, and finally, are able to lead their team to a conference championship and to a trip to the tournament, and then they somehow get super hot against a team like Kentucky, and it's like, here's everything you've worked for 4 or 5 years, and you get to get some attention on your team and your university that you haven't had in a long time, and
You become a March
for
folk hero.
yeah, for a guy like what is it, Campy, for a guy like him who's been there 40 years. I know because we played him, and I remember talking about him being there 40 years is insane. Like it's crazy.
At one school, yeah.
I mean, especially because they're usually always good, so I don't know why he's never been poached. Like that's kind of crazy.
Right. His next win would be his 700th for his career.
Well, when something like that happens, it's by choice he's been there that long.
Yeah,
which makes it even cooler. Like he's just a legend there. Obviously, there was a lot of chatter about Duquesne's head coach Keith Thembrot, famously coached LeBron in high school.
Yep.
And that for the longest time, he's been in Duquesne so long. Was that Akron left to go to Duquesne because his dad was a legend there, and he's been a local hero in Pittsburgh for as long as I can remember. Just Duquesne was always good at decent basketball. So to see this being his send off as to what was he going in knowing it was going to be his last season. One, I think that motivates your team, but also it's kind of like your magnum opus, right? It's like not only did we go, but we won a tournament game, amazingly, and it took Illinois to beat us. You know what I mean?
Right.
Definitely could have seen that potentially going another way, Case, and I could totally see why you picked them to go to the Sweet 16 because that would have been like awesome as well. But wanted to give a shout out to him as well, and the Duquesne Dukes. So.
But yeah, I did want to circle back to Coach Cal though, because we do need to at least sort of discuss. I mean, I'm concerned because someone needs to he needs to go to the hospital and check on his health because his lifetime contract is about to expire.
Like, are you out on Cal?
Is anybody in on Cal? Like, well, I mean,
Big Blue Nation. I don't know.
A take that
they're all out.
I would imagine they're the most mad at him.
I don't know all the Kentucky message boards were on fire all weekend long.
So a take that I saw in the situation this week was that Calipari is like basketball Jim Harbaugh, where he like goes stagnant forever, and then they like make a tweak or two and like kind of readjust their whole way of doing things, and because they're such a good coach that gets them back over the top, like how Harbaugh is almost out at Michigan, and then they adjust and they get all these super seniors and everything else because of COVID, and it ends up being a thing where Cal could stop going all in on freshmen and start building an actual team, and then maybe that's what gets them back over the top.
I'm trying to sit here and think of I see where you're going with that, Matt, but I almost want to find a new comparison of sort of the coach who's had prolonged success and then just hasn't had it for a while to the point where it's like he's almost comparable more to Boeheim at this point, only he's had way more obviously championships and success in his immediate career. But Cal, if you know, if you've ever seen the 30 for 31 and not done, has always like built, move on, built, move on, because like, and then usually what follows is like a trail of like, I don't want to say scandal, but like stuff that happens that because of NIL being legal now would not happen now at Kentucky, and it makes you wonder, okay, why don't we stop trying to just coast along, being especially at a time when some major pillars have left among the Blue Bloods. Roy Williams not there anymore. Obviously, Coach K not at Duke anymore. He's been one of the constants, like him and Izzo among some of the constants. And I'd rather be in a situation where Izzo's at right now, where he's known for taking his group of dudes and overperforming every year. Like he just knows how to coach in a tournament. It's how it goes. And every single year Michigan State men's basketball makes it to the NCAA tournament, you should always pick them to win a game. Whereas I feel like the narrative on Big Blue Nation now is definitely pick anyone to beat Kentucky, no matter what their seed is, because that is what they have become. Makes you wonder.
Well,
yeah, fix that.
I mean, a lot of people have pointed out the fact that like there's serious questions over Cal's like game management and ability to actually be an in-game coach.
Mm-hmm.
Because like for example, I mean, just take Golke, for example. You do a scouting report on him, he's taken 8 shots from inside the 3-point line all year. Maybe guard the guy from the line and don't let him get 10 threes in a game. Like it. And then when he is hitting 5 or 6, maybe close in and defend him. Like it's just crazy that you know his inability to adjust in game or even prepare for the game is not criticized more.
Mm. Well, and it's starting to be, right. You can't just coast. You can't coast along on the fact that you are Kentucky and statistically you have the better athletes. I'm like, I'm sorry, if they're all freshmen, it is going to become a deer in the headlight situation when they're against a really experienced team. I don't care what the seeds are.
He's been coasting on the back of Anthony Davis for 12 years.
Well,
like,
yeah.
I mean, what are we doing here?
Since that tier, yes. I mean, that tier team of just what he had then, and arguably his best from the top to bottom team he ever had there, still didn't win the championship. And the only reason I pointed that out is because my dad lost his office poll because of that. The undefeated team that lost to Frank Kaminsky, and then Duke won the championship.
Yeah, of which
I was the Bowling Green.
Also, that should be a felony to not win the championship with that team.
Oh,
like come on,
Karl-Anthony Towns. And I will never forget friend of the show Josh with a sign up at a Bowling Green basketball game saying we want Kentucky, and just seeing the players during warm-ups reaction to his sign. It was one of the funniest things. Like I distinctly remember current NBA player Rashawn Holmes, Bowling Green basketball alumnus, arcing up to take a shot, seeing that sign, and then doubling over and falling on the ground laughing, just because it was just so absurd that year. That very idea of like, no, we don't want any more playing that team.
Just to reiterate who was on that roster, it was Devin Booker, Tyler Ulis, Karl-Anthony Towns, Willie Cauley-Stein.
Oh, I forgot Cauley-Stein. Yeah.
Yeah, just ridiculous.
Yep. And Frank Kaminsky was their kryptonite. Anyway, yeah, I think I don't necessarily think that he's going to be out at Kentucky anytime here. I mean, shout out Coach. I like Coach Cal, straight up Pittsburgh guy. But it is one of those places where when you have a streak of losing in the first round to these teams you just should not lose to, it becomes a situation of we should never, ever be in that situation. What is happening? What is going on? So
it actually, now that the way that you said that made me think of like, oh, so he's actually like Ryan Day at Ohio State.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
Losing
that's a better comparison.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Where things are actually trending in the back. Like it would be one thing if Kentucky was getting a little bit further each year, a little bit further. I mean, better. I mean, that's what Coach K did at Duke. I mean, you know, that's the thing. Like when before Duke was Duke, they would get a little bit further each year, a little bit further each year. You could tell it was coming. It was on the way. Leitner comes in, dynasty. You know what I mean?
Right.
Building and building. That's more like a Harbaugh situation, where he finally gets it done. And I don't like comparing the two sports, basketball, football, but you get what I mean. Day would be a better comparison to how it's been, where it's like the place has had success and it's like, where's it gone, sir?
Right. It's just still not quite getting to that standard, and it's the same thing. And yeah, no, I get that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's I think the timing of it is just really too obvious to ignore. That like it feels very clear that the second everybody can pay their players, he's irrelevant and nobody wants to go to Kentucky anymore.
Yeah, what's up? Well, I mean, is a comparison like Dabo not out of the realm of
I
because
would think
Dabo's
that
actually
makes
won.
way more sense too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dabo's actually won championships there. Clemson.
Like
So, I mean,
he's a coach that you go to play for when nobody else can pay you, or because you don't want to actually be there.
yeah,
And all of a sudden, okay, well, I can go make as much money in Los Angeles or anywhere else.
I'll just put it this way:
And-
as a blue, if I was blue blood quality right now, out of the 4 to 5 that we've discussed, Kentucky would be the last on my list right now. Take me to
Mhm.
UConn, take me to Duke, take me to UNC, take me to UCLA, like you just said, Kaysen. Kentucky, where they seemingly can't get over the hump, unless you want to be part of the class that finally brings it back. I don't know. It's hurting the brand. But I agree with you,
Yeah.
Kaysen.
Yeah.
I did want to ask you guys, what matchup in the Sweet 16 are you most looking forward to? Because really, we got a lot of like higher seeds left. Kaysen, you mentioned the rematch of the national championship a year ago, UConn and San Diego State, who battled their way through here. I mean, struggled against UAB, but then took care of business against Yale, who beat Auburn. So Bruce Pearl at Auburn. So that's one I like. I'll admit to you guys, I'm kind of on the DJ Burns NC State train now. That's just been a really fun story, and also it's a local story where I'm at. So, I mean,
He's awesome.
yeah,
He's so awesome. I started watching during the ACC tournament. I guess it would have been like 2 weeks ago now. He's so fun to watch.
he's a big man basketball player who's built like a lineman. Yet,
Oh yeah,
and also apparently news today, his side hustle is that he owns vending machines, which is incredible. Yeah, he's revealed that. That's like he owns them, so he gets the revenue from the vending machines, which I'm like, that's like very much a wholesome side hustle like a DJ Burns would have.
oh yeah.
Yeah. How about it, Casey? Matt, anyone?
Well, I just was gonna throw another game out there. So Houston and Duke are playing on Friday night.
Indeed.
That just feels like a really big game. I'll throw a stat out there. Duke is 0-5 against teams that are seated higher than them since 1994.
Interesting.
That's the last time they beat a team ranked higher than them was 1994.
Who did they beat in '94?
Oh man, I didn't write that down. I
I
saw
only
that
was-
tweet like 5 minutes before we got on.
That's awesome. Only because that quite literally was the tournament that happened the year I was born. So whoever Duke beat that year,
I'm pulling it up.
I'll have it in a second.
It was
1994. It was a
wasn't
one seed.
it wasn't Kentucky on the shot, was it?
I think it was Arkansas.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, wait, no. Did they beat
Purdue.
Beat Purdue.
Purdue.
Yes.
'cause
They lost in the national championship to Arkansas that year.
There
Yeah.
you go. Yeah, Arkansas, weirdly like a mini dynasty in the early '90s in men's basketball.
Yeah.
They were really good in that like late '80s, early '90s. Cool. That's a cool stat.
So, I mean, it's not really a name brand matchup, but I think as far as the potential for super good games, I think Iowa State and Illinois is going to be super close. It's a 2-3 matchup. It'll be really, I think, back and forth. It should be anyway. I don't think it'll be a blowout one way or the other.
Couple of conference champions,
Yeah.
Big 12 and Big 10.
I wanted to shout out a team that I think really like when they bowed out of the SEC tournament, I thought to myself, oh, okay. So, and I'm pretty sure this team was the 1 seed in the SEC tournament, Tennessee, the
Yes.
Volunteers. They just had a reputation in men's basketball recently of just always falling apart. And I thought I actually had them. Oh, I guess I picked this correctly. I had them going at least to the Sweet 16, but I just had this feeling that they were going to lose to not St. Peter's because they took care of business pretty easily. I thought maybe they'll lose to Texas, or maybe they'll lose to Colorado State if Colorado State gets to Texas. But no, they sit here against Creighton. I'm like, okay, so they're a Sweet 16 team.
Yeah. Peyton and I were actually talking about that region yesterday. So
Mhm.
Gonzaga has been to 2 Final Fours, but Purdue and Tennessee and Creighton have not ever been there. And those are the 4 teams that are in that region to get one of the Final Four spots. So I thought that was really interesting.
So you're telling me that the 2 teams that have made the Final Four before are playing each other, and everyone else hasn't been there before.
No, only Gonzaga has made it.
Only Gonzaga
Gonzaga's
has
made
made
it
it.
twice. Yes.
Gotcha.
And they're playing against Purdue, who hasn't, and then Tennessee and Creighton are playing, and they haven't either.
Got it. I actually like that more. I like that more
Yeah.
because there's more. There's less teams. Okay. Okay. Cool. Interesting.
Yeah, which I also think that the Gonzaga Purdue game could be interesting. I think that if you would have like if this would have been, maybe a Gonzaga team with like a Drew Timmy or something, they would have been much more built to compete against Zach Edey. I mean, if anybody is ever built to compete against Zach Edey, but
2 guys on stilts.
because they don't really have. I think their tallest guy is 6'10", so they don't really have anybody that I think can super compete with Edey for rebounds and things like that, or down low in the block. But they played in November, and Purdue I think won by 10. So it's just going to depend on whether or not Gonzaga figured out how to fix what went wrong the first time. Because it is super interesting that they've met before. Because you don't see that all the time in the tournament, that like they actually have played that year. And so they have a little bit of film to go back to and to at least prep for it. So
Can I throw out a stat on that?
Sure.
So you talked about how they played earlier in the season. They played in the Maui Invitational, and so Purdue played against Gonzaga and they won. And then the next game they played against Tennessee, who they could see in the next game here. And then they played against Marquette, who was a potential Final Four opponent. So kind of weird that
That's
sequencing could
very
happen twice in
interesting.
the season. Yeah, I know.
Maui
That is
Invitational
very
was like,
interesting.
yeah, we're just gonna be
I love
March and
Twitter.
November. Let's do it.
Yeah, you don't you don't think about that, but that is, I mean, those are all really good tournament teams in the Maui Invitational.
Now I will say the one thing I will say about that in terms of predicting future success is March to November is a completely different animal. Like it would be different if this was like over the holidays, but we're talking all of your non-conference,
Mhm.
all of your conference schedule where, knock down, drag out. Those games are always insane, no matter the conference, don't matter what conference it is. Not to mention now we've gone through 2 rounds of March. And oh, by the way, the conference tournament. So
Mhm.
what did you learn in that period of time to where, in other words, you can watch that film depending on what happened, especially if you won those games, but what can we really pull from that that's going to help us now with what we've gone through up to this point?
Right.
That's the one thing I'll say. But yes, shout out to the Maui Invitational for picking a very good allotment of teams there for tournament this year. An unusual team to see this far in the men's tournament, quite frankly, is Clemson. Shout out the ACC showing out like they usually do. Well, more recently, not as much in recent years, but I shout out to the ACC teams that are left in it, as it's been solid to see. To be honest, I thought it was a little surprise. I wasn't too surprised when they beat Baylor because I actually watched that team play this year, and they never necessarily seemed all that impressive. I'm also a little not too surprised, but I mean, like, I'm also sitting here thinking if one of these teams could be games could be a blowout. I could also see that being that Arizona
So
Clemson. Like, hey, cool, you made it this far, but
again, this is I think going to be the norm, because you look at things like this is an effect of the NIL era, and maybe
Yeah.
even a little bit of the transfer portal too. But you look at a team like Clemson, which isn't really a basketball, like they're not known for deep tournament runs in basketball, and here they are, and their top 3 scorers, all over 10 points, are 3 seniors. They're 3 guys who've been there forever. And the guy who's averaging 18 points a game, he's from Spartanburg. So I mean, you've got guys
Local
who probably
dude.
grew up Clemson fans, dreamt of playing for Clemson. Super cool. I mean, it's cool to see things like that being able to happen now. I mean, yeah, this guy PJ Hall. If you would put Clemson basketball player into an AI generator, this is what the guy would look like. I mean, he averaged 3.5 points his freshman year, and then here he is, almost 20 points his senior year, leading him into a tournament run. So the basketball team's not coached by Dabo, so I'll give them some props here. Um,
Another local guy playing for his team. I meant to mention earlier, like, yeah, we talked about Burns, but I love DJ Horn's story. Guy who was elsewhere and then he came back. He's actually from Raleigh, so he's on his like hometown NC State team, and he's like the best player. So it's like he's on like a mission to take NC State and summon the spirit of Jim Valvano and take them as far as they can. The 1983 comparisons are undeniable right now. I mean, it's survive and advance. Began with that school. So, again, local guy comes back. Another guy, he's actually a grad student for them. So, yeah, these are just the stories in March that are great. That being said, I mean, who do we see taking the big steps this weekend out of these matchups? I mean, one team we haven't talked about is UConn, and I've continued to say we're all fighting for the right to lose to that team.
Yeah.
So,
they're just a wagon.
I mean,
yeah.
Hurley's got that team back to like the way they were.
I think now is a good point to at least sort of give where our brackets are as far as the predictions.
Sure.
So in my main prediction that I felt really comfortable about, I had UConn winning over Tennessee.
Interesting. Okay.
I love Dalton Knecht. I mean, he is a superstar. I don't know. I mean, Dalton Knecht is crazy good, and I think that with the amount of really good seasons and really good teams that Rick Barnes has had, I think they're all very well experienced and built to be able to get this done. So I think that'd be that's what I think would be cool. I mean, UConn Tennessee would be a really good championship game.
I think so. You have a Power 5 school that's not usually there against like one of the pseudo blue bloods, and I think that would be awesome. Matt?
Yeah, I have UConn over Duke. I think that would be a super fun game. The 2 days leading up to it would be great, and it would be storylines galore about this, that, and the other thing with blue bloods and who is and who isn't and all that. But yeah, at the end of the day, I can't bet against the experience of Dan Hurley in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, it dates back to when he was what literally 2 years ago when he said, "You better get us now because we're coming." And then the following year was last year. So, and he was right. I just remember down the stretch, UConn. I mean, among those cool teams down the stretch, UConn was the only team that like won every tournament game by 20 points. Like it was like no one has a chance to beat these guys. That being said, I actually have UConn and Marquette in my championship game, and I really kind of went with that. What's up?
I just said Big East.
Big East, a rematch actually of the Big East championship game in the tournament, and I mainly because I Hurley versus Shaka taking another team that far, but it's Marquette. They finally get over the hump is kind of what I would want to see happen. Granted, I'm starting to think more and more that, okay, Marquette might end this run for NC State, but I could also definitely see like NC State upsets them, and then it's Houston and NC State, and maybe that's where finally Houston, like the run ends for NC State, Houston gets in there, and it's like, okay, it's what we thought. In other words, I'm not overly confident that Marquette could beat Houston, especially after kind of last night and seeing some things. But you never know. But that's what I had, and in that matchup, I had UConn winning. So just I don't know. I had this thought. Case in like a couple weeks ago, we talked about how this year has been all about how there hasn't been like a really clear cut best team, like except UConn.
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, but when it comes right down to it, it's probably going to be a final
who's going to be the best team to lose to UConn?
Yes,
right.
And I will say, back to backs. I mean, a back to back would be impressive because we haven't. I'm pretty sure we haven't seen one since the Joakim Noah Florida Gators, right? Uh, in
That
this
sounds right.
tournament, anyway. So, I did want to shift to the women, where we can talk a little bit about kind of the same things, but I will say I will say so far that for me, hang on, they have yet to really dub their Sweet 16. So I really just kind of wanted to tell you guys who was in my Final Four in this. If I can, you know what? As a matter of fact, it's easier just to pull it up on my phone.
Yeah.
But I actually had on the one side, I did have I this was all about narratives for me. I was like, I could see Iowa making it through, and I think one of mine is already shattered because I thought it was going to be a cool. This is one that hurt me a lot, guys. On this side, I had Ohio State and Iowa meeting in the Final Four. I thought Ohio State was going to go way further.
I did too.
You
Yeah.
did? Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I really thought that was going to go much further, and I thought Caitlin Clark's going to get through LSU only to fall to the team that beat them during the regular season, which I will say that if Ohio State had made it that far, probably would have happened.
I also had that happening.
You did? Okay.
The other side in the Final Four for me was South Carolina and Stanford.
Same. We have the same.
So I had South Carolina over Ohio State in the championship game.
I'm going to say something that I just going to go ahead and say, just because I've had a lot of people talk about this. I think because of the existence of Caitlin Clark, not enough attention's been paid to Cameron Brink at Stanford, because that team is a wagon too. And in some ways, I would love to see them eclipse South Carolina, because that would be that would be them finally getting like the attention that they deserve if they're finally. Now, I have South Carolina winning it all. I thought what they did to North Carolina this weekend was as dominating a statement as I've ever seen. A happily decent North Carolina women's team had no chance against them. And it was like, okay, so it's going to take someone like a Cameron Brink at Stanford to maybe do that.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest with you, I'd like to see that as a championship game if that were to be cast. But if it's not going to be the championship game, at least it'll be the Final Four. So, Matt?
Yeah, I don't really have any like super strong opinions. I just know that like I have South Carolina. I think that Caitlin Clark is super interesting, and I'm looking forward to. I think that they're bracketed with LSU.
They are.
I believe that might be like an Elite Eight matchup, maybe. But
they
anyway,
they would meet in the Elite Eight. Yes,
that matchup would be incredible. I cannot wait for that.
Yeah,
I think that would be the most watched game of the tournament so far.
Just out of spite, I guess you could say, I have LSU losing to UCLA.
I have that as well, but I also think that the narrative of Caitlin Clark versus Kim Mulkey, would get, and not to, I mean, obviously Angel Reese, that whole roster from what happened in the championship last year.
I don't know if
I mean, I'm more interested to see that game than like any of those Sweet 16 games on the men's side.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll talk about it later, but I need that Washington Post article to drop right before their UCLA game.
let's talk about that when we hit of the weeks, because that is going to be that is interesting. But yeah. Any other this is March thoughts, guys? It's been a fun time. I always love this time of year.
It always is.
I wish Bowling Green could be in this tournament. That is my one.
Yeah.
Just once in my life, please.
Once in my life, and friend of the show James and I always said that if Bowling Green ever were to make it, 100% we are writing Bowling Green in as the champion, and that's going to be my official bracket. Like,
yeah,
obviously that's going to be it's going to be like, look, that's what's going to happen. I did want to point this out. Matt asked me about this hat. I did wear, it's a Syracuse Mets hat, and I wanted to wear it because the Syracuse women are still in the tournament on the women's side, and I'm pulling for them as well. So they've had a great year. So and also the shout out to Syracuse Mets. I went to one Syracuse Mets game in my life, and that was when DeGrom made a rehab start. So it was pretty awesome for a AAA game. Anyway, any thoughts, or do we want to move on to free agency in the 2 weeks it's been?
I'm ready to talk Stillers.
And among other topics, I don't know if Kaysen is. Like, look at his face.
What do you mean? They signed back Cade York today.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get it. Yeah, let's get into it. Let's get
Yeah,
into it.
let's get into it.
Let's get into the NFL offseason we've had in the last couple of weeks because some major things dropped. Obviously, about many teams. Yes.
We'll start with that. You guys have a brand new quarterback.
Yeah, we've got a pair of them. We've got two of them.
Yeah, your entire quarterback room is different, which doesn't happen very often.
Listen, it was an early birthday gift for me. Just the lead in to Russell Wilson getting signed, and then of course the Fields, which I wasn't really sure was going to happen. I thought Russell. I really was like, oh, okay, so Kenny will just be there. But when Kenny got dealt, that was when I was like, oh, we're being real. Like Omar's being real aggressive with this whole thing, and that was when I said maybe the Bears will trade him for something. And then I remember the Bears are kind of a dumb organization, so
and they traded him away for a half-drank juice box.
Yeah,
and some peanuts to be named later,
and also for Manny Sandwich for good measure. Yeah. And Justin Fields is in the quarterback room now with Russell Wilson.
Which I mean,
a lot of thoughts.
Justin Fields, I will say, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of debate over how good Russ is statistically and how he ranks in the quarterbacks. But if you average it out, I think that you guys have probably one of the best starter backup quarterback rooms in the league. Like, because I mean, both of your quarterbacks, I'd say, are in the top 40 in the league, maybe top 43. Like,
oh, yeah.
I mean, Justin Fields is probably one of the best backups in the league. At this point,
which attitude wise, he's clearly fine being a backup right now, right? If Russell's the opposite.
I mean, and
he might earn his way to be the starter.
He makes a ton of sense backing up Russ scheme wise and gameplay wise. And so I think he's probably more than enthused to learn from former Super Bowl champion and from somebody like that, because I feel like they also are probably fairly similar dudes. From what I know about Justin's personality, they probably are at least kind of similar. So
Justin kind of famously is not known for nightlife at all. He doesn't do anything. He's like to the point where he's been accused of being a recluse, but like he just spends time with his dog. He doesn't go out on the town. He spends times with friends here and there, but like he kind of perfectly mirrors like exactly the mentality of like he's done everything off the field of like I am focused on trying to be a good NFL quarterback first. The rest of the stuff will come later, which is why like his behavior off the field, it's like, man, could he get rewarded with something on the field? No matter where it was, like prior to him being with the Steelers, like, can it work out in Chicago or somewhere or whatever? And Russ, of course, Russ had a pretty squeaky clean reputation off the field until the drama started on his way out of Seattle, right? So, and he still is he still is like a good guy off the field. He just has major dad energy on.
He's just a nerd
on social media. Yeah,
he's so corny.
Yes, he's incredibly cheesy. And like the funny thing is, like, it was fun to laugh at it. It was fun to laugh at it when he wasn't on the Steelers. Now that he's on the Steelers, I love it.
I do too.
I love
it's so
how
fun. I'm liking
ridiculous.
every time he tweets.
I'm like him. I'm like, yep, that's our Russ. Roll my eyes and keep on moving.
Yeah,
Steelers country, let's ride.
Yeah,
it's a great day to be a Steeler. And like, it is a great day to be a Steeler.
Oh, it's a great day to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. But the one thing I did want to talk about here was I had this thought today because I knew I was going to talk to you guys. And everyone from back home always and which is a lot of our audience, both in Ohio, Pittsburgh, Western PA area, wants to hear my take on this, and yours as well, Matt, of course. And really yours too, Kaysen, the antithesis of that. But one, I've never seen the Steelers with Omar Khan or whatever be this aggressive. I never would have thought like this would have happened to where it's like, we're just going to nuke the QB room and start over. The Steelers have this way of, as an organization, and some fans are really not going to agree with me on this, but even when things don't quite work out and decision-wise, maybe it didn't work out, they still come out looking incredible. I've always thought that in terms of, you're admitting clearly it didn't work with Kenny. He wasn't going to be the guy. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off now. And you still go and not only have Russ, you have Justin Fields now, and oh, by the way, for under $5 million for like no money. While everyone, including major contenders, are dealing with the cap right now on the major contracts. And I'm like, okay, so we still have a loaded defense, and hopefully the upside potential of the quarterback, the offense finally working out, flipped my whole excitement for next season completely on a dime. I was like, okay, the Steelers are going to be the same team next year. Not anymore. Not offense.
Yeah.
So that's one of my thoughts today.
You're talking about the mindset shift. I mean, I would have bet on Kenny being on the Steelers for 2 more years as opposed to not being on them this year.
Yeah, I mean, fun fact of something that came out over this past week, even while my mom was here visiting for my birthday. Kenny Pickett and his wife are putting their mansion up for sale in the Pittsburgh area with all the furniture included. They are burning every bridge they have, and from their perspective, I don't blame them at all. I really don't, especially being more from the Jersey side of things. But I thought about that, and I thought to myself, that I was like, wow, Kenny Pickett in a lot of ways has been more burned as a Steelers quarterback than anyone in my lifetime. And like a year ago, I was like, yeah, this guy over Mason Rudolph. And then it's like, wow, how much can change in the NFL in 6 months? 4 or 5 months, let alone 6, let alone a year. So thoughts, Kaysen? I'd like to, or anyone. Matt, you can rebuttal again, or I'd love to hear Kaysen's perspective as well.
Just before Kaysen talks, we also signed Patrick Queen, and I'm really excited about that. Go ahead.
Yeah. And it's pretty incredible for him to literally say, why'd I sign here? And then he just points to the Steelers logo, that logo, because it means successful football. And I'm like, this is a guy who played for the Ravens. He's a genius. Okay, anyway. All right, Kaysen, your Browns share the division with us.
Yeah, I mean,
infamously.
I think I'll just lead off by saying I really hate your new general manager. I prefer the old one. His way of doing business was a lot more preferential to everybody else in the division being better than you. I mean, I definitely have to say that, like, I don't understand how you guys got Patrick Queen, but that's a great move. I again don't understand how you guys have Russ and Justin Fields combined under $5 million. I think those are both better than any of the quarterbacks you had on the roster last year. And I think the decision to get Arthur Smith probably is going to work out. I mean, he can't be worse than Canada, so I think it's going to work out, at least relatively. So yeah, I have to say I don't like it. I don't like them. I don't like any of these moves. For my sake,
I'm gonna buy a Steelers jersey with Omar Khan on the back, and I'm gonna make and I'm gonna what am I gonna do? I can't do that. I was gonna make a joke, but I can't really. It doesn't really work. It's not like inappropriate. It just doesn't work. So anyway,
it should just be their. It should be the quarterback room's combined salaries, like 4.4 M or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say I'll get it with number 7 on the back because that's the number of Super Bowl he's gonna help us win. But it's like, wait, that doesn't work. Ben's number. Anyway, the aggressiveness, I think, has caught the whole league by a storm because regardless of your opinion on the Steelers, you know the reputation, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, you got the defense was still top of the league last year, and all you were missing was a semi-competent offense.
Yep.
In which I think Russ and Arthur Smith can deliver. And so if you guys can average 21 points a game, I mean, you're probably hosting a playoff game in January.
Yes. As Russ pointed out, I mean, we've had the defensive player on the year on the Steelers for at least the last 5 years. Only, people like your franchise can steal awards if they want. Yours is in the Browns. But anyway, I will say this. That makes me think what you just said, though, Kaysen, about Matt Canada makes me think about Kenny Pickett's perspective. And I hate to bring it up again, but it makes you wonder if they hadn't wasted time on firing Matt Canada or moved on from him this past year, if things could have gone differently. But it's sort of like taking, well, this is the situation we're at and we can get Russ. Let's just get him. Oh, you don't want to be here, Kenny? Fine. Let's get him out of here. oh, let's just go get Justin. Oh, the Bears will accept that deal. Okay, cool. We'll take that too. I mean, I can't believe with the speed of which everything happened as well.
Yeah,
Like a
I think
quarterback room
I
changing
think
that much in like 4 days is a lot.
yeah, to an extent, I think at least from an outsider's perspective, I feel like Kenny has a right to be pissed
Oh,
about
absolutely. No question about it.
like he had to deal with the turmoil of not being coached for 2 years, and then all of a sudden they finally get rid of the guy that was holding him back, and his reward is getting benched.
His it what happened to Kenny's almost worse than what happened to Justin because Justin Fields in
Yeah.
Chicago. Like I made that mention to a couple of people. I'm like at least Justin was given a real fair shake and has kind of been on a slow I'm out the door with the Bears for a while. Whereas Kenny Pickett seemingly was going to get a chance all over again. And then within a matter of months, in a week, it just went from, oh, you're out the door. Oh, and by the way, you're definitely going to back him up because we wouldn't have done this if you were going to play. Well, then I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, at the combine, Omar was saying like, Kenny's our guy. We believe in him. Blah blah blah. And then literally like 2.5 weeks later, he's out the door to Philly.
Look, I mean, to be fair though, if your general manager says you are the guy, start packing.
Yeah.
Like
It's a Cardinals tweet.
whenever you hear, yeah, yeah,
It's a
Josh is our
Cardinal.
guy.
Josh is our guy.
Josh is our guy.
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
Anyway, so that's that. What other things in free agency do we want to talk about? Obviously, those. Yes.
I'll at least just mention, yeah, the big, I think, headline deal that the Browns did was trading objectively nothing to get Jerry Jeudy, which
Mhm.
there's a lot of debate over how good he is or can be, but all I know is that the Browns front office has been trying to get him for like 3 years. They've been in love with him since he was at Alabama, and they've desperately been trying to get him, and Denver finally has been, I guess, irrelevant enough to where they'll just get rid of him. So,
And he signed an extension with Cleveland, correct? Like he's
yeah,
locked in for 3 years.
The actual numbers are not quite as mind-boggling than what was reported. It's effectively like, because he had like a fifth-year option that was, I think, a lot of what the salary was, and so it ended up being like, so he's on the books for 4 years, and I think it's like 35 million guaranteed or something. So
That's a good deal.
it's
a good deal for the
I mean,
Browns.
it basically roughly puts him in like maybe a little too high paid if he isn't like wide receiver number one territory.
Yeah.
But if he can be the number one wide receiver in 2 years on like that cheap of a contract, it would have been a steal.
I do want to mention both your quarterback signings. Jameis.
Yeah. So that we did get Jameis. That was
1-year deal, 8 point
interesting.
Actually 4.4 million, and then Tyler Huntley. And then so long Flacco. So long, partner.
Yeah, the Flacco thing, I think, was, anybody that knew what they were talking about knew that he was never coming back for a couple reasons. One, I don't think that they wanted him to be in the locker room with the quarterback who shall not be named.
Yeah.
And because the second he throws a pick, they'll be screaming Joe's name. And two, like they were also very schematically different. Like I also have questions about how schematically similar Jameis Winston is. Because he is quite a bit different. I mean, I think Tyler Huntley kind of fits Watson's play style, but yeah, I think that basically what they went with is that they knew, with a lot of questions surrounding his shoulder, they had to be prepared with a really deep backup quarterback room. And they went with two guys who are very good backup level guys. I mean, Tyler Huntley was technically a Pro Bowler.
I thought you were going to say something about that.
Like I mean, technically, in the way of Mac Jones being a
was
Pro
like-
Bowler.
Yeah, he was like the sixth alternate that got promoted. a
Yeah,
bunch of
yeah.
times.
So I mean, yeah, they're both capable of, being competitive in the game in a game if you need them to be.
I
So
I wanted to point out some other moves, and there was another one here that I wanted to once again say good job to the Steelers punting Deontay Johnson, Toledo grad, to Carolina Panthers, basically into the NFL equivalent of the Sun right now. So that was good, but all around guy who I started to like because of the show quarterback, Kirk Cousins, signed with the Atlanta Falcons. Another big move that
Yeah.
happened. Thoughts on that? Because I like him landing there because the Falcons traded Desmond Ridder to the Cardinals.
I mean, I don't know if you guys feel differently, but I thought this was a stupid decision for him to leave. Like, I don't know what quarterback would willingly leave Justin Jefferson. Like,
See-
I don't
I
That's
to
valid.
go to go play with Drake London. Like, what are we doing?
Kyle Pitts.
Oh,
Who else do they have?
Kyle
Bijan?
Pitts. I'm sorry. Bijan. Okay.
come on,
I'm
Ray
just
Ray
saying.
McLeod, man, Darnell Moody,
Yeah.
Rondell
Yeah.
Moore. What are you talking about? All of them collectively are like, I don't know, a pinky toe of Jefferson.
Right.
Anyway,
It's not an upgrade for him, but it's definitely an upgrade for Atlanta.
yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
it-
I'm not gonna blame the guy for getting what was it? 40 million. Oh, it was 100 and
You could say any number and I believe you.
I think it's like 40 to 45 a year,
Yeah,
which
it's
is
something
like
absurd like
I'm
that.
not gonna blame the guy for getting a massive contract, but I just think that he's gonna need to resign to the fact that they're gonna win 8 games.
right, and maybe he went there
don't know.
for the competition, the bag, as well as just a change of scenery. He's been in Minnesota a long time, but also, let's be real, some stuff has happened there in the last few years with his injuries that has, I don't necessarily think, rubbed him the wrong way, but has definitely fractured, I think, a bit of the relationship with the organization, which I think played more of a role in him leaving than I think we're talking about. If you think of like the quarterback season and you think about this past year,
Yeah,
the,
I
the-
mean,
the fans wanting to move on from him straight up, like
yeah,
they're
yeah.
literally calling him the reason they can't win in the playoffs. It's like, okay,
which is
well,
fair, and
fair, right?
I think
it's like,
I think the front office definitely was like, this is the number that we will not go over to keep you.
exactly.
And the Falcons backed up the Brinks truck and they were like, okay, well, go have fun in Atlanta. Like
Yeah,
I think it worked out well because I mean the Vikings made a trade to get an additional first rounder, of which everybody thinks they're gonna use as ammunition to trade up even higher.
yeah.
To get one of the top quarterbacks.
Yes, this is all pre-draft, by the way. Yes,
Yeah.
everything we talk about. In an era where free agency in the NFL has become like the NBA.
Yeah,
I mean-
which I mean, essentially, yeah, I think it'll be very interesting because I mean the Vikings have Kevin O'Connell, who's a relatively newer coach, and it'll be interesting to see where they go, rebuilding around a rookie quarterback.
Yes. I also want to bring this story up because it was pretty significant because we had Saquon Barkley signed with the Eagles. He left to go directly to a division rival, and like they're ultimately more like the most powerful one he could.
Which
Um,
I mean, I can't say that I blame him, but he basically announced it in a way which was, I see you guys. I'm not. I mean, I'm not going to shed a tear about
Nope.
having to hate all you Giants fans from now on.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he must have hated it there, and I can't say I blame him considering. I think what he ended up missing like almost 2 whole seasons with injuries, basically.
I honestly don't.
Um,
I honestly don't think the rumblings were that he didn't feel pretty taken care of by the organization, and at a time when running backs are very scrutinized and can't get a bag, and Saquon, I think, is probably one of the few guys worth a bag to
mhm.
keep a running back. I just think it was one of those. He definitely felt, let's use him up and get him out of here kind of thing. And barring how bad an organization the Giants have been over the last few years, I'm not surprised. So maybe some behind the scenes stuff happened there too.
You don't think he just went to Philly to form a dream team with Kenny Pickett?
Yes, he may have just done that as well. Let's take. I actually don't know where Saquon's originally from, but he's a Penn State guy.
I think he's like a Jersey, Philly area
So
guy.
okay, yeah. So yeah, he enters a place that has, of course, yes, Jalen Hurts, but now Kenny Pickett, Will Grier, and now himself.
Yeah, well, he's technically was born in the Bronx, but he's from the Philly, the extended Philly area, I think.
There
is
you
where he
go.
went to high school.
There you go. So yeah, maybe he can help make the Eagles. I don't know, not a complete collapsing team.
He can
yeah,
push Jalen's tush.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Saquon and running backs, though, it's very interesting though, because this is like the off seasons of the running back musical chairs.
Mhm.
Because the other big notable running back signing was in our division. Derrick Henry,
Yep,
or what's left of Derrick Henry, is going to Baltimore.
King Henry, where he
So
where he will
That was a
compete
crown.
with where he will compete with Lamar for the top running back role.
I my only guess is that they'll be running the triple option. That's my best guess there.
I'm just going to throw this out here. If you could make that work, though, that would be incredible. With those guys, I actually, if someone could make like an NFL style wildcat / triple option with those dudes, and could make it work and take it seriously like it traditionally is with the 3 down backs in the back with the left and right, with the pitch option and the pullback option. And oh, by the way, you can just hand it up to Derek up the middle. Like, I actually think that there's a formula there where don't call it running offense in the NFL. Don't call it a comeback. We've been here for years. Like, seriously, I think that could work. I don't know. It's a great room to try it at in.
It'll be very interesting to see. And then to fill the void, if you want to say the meme, like we've got McDonald's at home, and then it's like the McDonald's at home meme. I don't know if you've seen that. The Derrick Henry at home is Tony Pollard. I believe, right? So Tony Pollard, I guess felt like he should go to Tennessee. I don't really understand that.
Hey, Tennessee also signed Mason Rudolph. So I ultimately salute that man. Good luck to you. Go to Nashville. It's a pretty cool place. So I did want to point this out just because I thought this was interesting, because I don't know what this team really does at quarterback now. Sam Darnold signed a 1-year deal with the Vikings, which makes me wonder if the Vikings could be one of those sneaky teams that takes a QB like in the late round. I don't know.
Oh, they're 100% taking a quarterback. I think Darnold is more of like Darnold could start a couple games if they didn't want to throw in their rookie week 1. Yeah.
And also depending on the rookie you can get. I mean, quite frankly.
Yeah. I mean,
because, you're middle of the pack.
To me,
so.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think they're definitely probably going to try and get somebody that falls, like whichever quarterback maybe slips a little into like the bottom half of the top 10.
Yeah.
They might try and go up to get, but I think that's where they would be a team that maybe like a Bo Nix, where
I was thinking like JJ McCarthy. He just feels like a Viking.
If they want to go up and try and get JJ McCarthy, to then be looking for a quarterback next year, that's up to them.
Haha.
Well,
I hate that man.
Well, I will say. Well, I will say this. One of the things that we should just mention is that the move by the Steelers pretty much locks in that Caleb's probably going to be your number 1 overall pick in the draft, for him to inevitably probably crash and burn in Chicago, just like Justin did. Since mechanically, I think Justin has everything more than Caleb, but that's besides the point. We'll see. It could be wrong. But if it couldn't happen with him, new regime, maybe it can happen again. It's just like it's it's sort of like Kaysen in the middle of the year. I remember one point I'm like, I can't even tell them to tank for Caleb. You think Caleb's going to fix this mess? Like the more things change in the NFL, the more they just stay the same. I don't know. I just a lot of history just continuously repeating itself, and some teams, organizations, not just in the NFL, slamming their head against the wall until it finally works or they luck into a great roster. My thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, and because even then, there's absolutely no assurance that Caleb's even going to be good.
No, and
Like there are a ton of questions about his pro readiness,
mentally as
and
well.
his and I mean, along with the fact like they won 8 games. Like I don't understand why everybody's like, oh, Caleb Williams #1 pick the entire season when his team, albeit a lot of it wasn't really his fault, but his team was objectively bad most of the season.
In a year where like Mel Kiper's now saying 5 quarterbacks could go in the first round, sure, any given year, but this year I could see it. He definitely mechanically is not the one that I would think 4 years from now is the one that's worked out.
Right.
Just yeah.
I mean
I could see JJ being more that way, Matt.
And like you look at somebody like I don't know, Matt, if you want to elaborate on this but like we've seen the smoke screens that come out in March and April last year. We saw how many conversations about CJ Stroud and the S2 test, and all of a sudden he's like we all thought in December he's the best rookie of the class. Like
right,
it's just
it's not even close.
Like the further we get away from games, the more we like way overanalyze stuff that doesn't matter.
Yeah, talk ourselves into stuff that's just not correct.
What there was a GM there's Ron Cook in Pittsburgh on the radio and a columnist for years. He quotes this GM all the time, but I forget what GM it is, but it's a former GM in the NFL who said, I've never been lied to my face more or deceived more in my life than like the 2 months leading up to the NFL draft. Like by like trusted friends, people who I would confide in about like serious topics. I've never been more deceived and flat out just untrustworthy people talking to me than that. And I think the conversation around quarterbacks has gotten to the point where it's flat out toxic. I mean, the stuff that's going to come out about these guys in the next 2 months, month and a half is just, a lot of the talk is just going to be disgusting. And it's just so these teams can get their guy.
Not even just quarterbacks. I mean,
everybody. Yeah.
Like I know Matt and I have talked about this before, but for 6 months to a year, the conversation was top 5 number 1 non-quarterback is Marvin Harrison Jr. And then the last month it's like, he's not at the combine, he's not at the pro day. Maybe Rome Odunze is better. Maybe Malik Neighbors is better too. And so it's like now you've got guys putting him at the 3rd best wide receiver. Yeah. And it's like, dude, like he was the best wide receiver the entire year. And then all of a sudden now, because he's not at the pro day, he's the 3rd
he
wide
knows
receiver.
it, which is why he's not there.
Yeah. It's just these, I think that the more, I think people are like definitely aware of it at this point. But like the whole like, Mel Kiper and Todd McShay culture is just ruining the NFL draft. It's ruining the entire.
And it's partially come out of the fact
culture.
That it happened. It's happening the latest it's ever happened in history now. Like another 4 weeks of saying the same rumors to each other is going to change your ultimate terrible decision on draft night. So. I don't know. Anyway, culture of the NFL draft now. Any final thoughts on free agency, fellas? That you haven't gotten off your chest?
I just want the schedule and I want to kick off. I'm ready for football.
Matt's ready for Matt is who spring football has been made for.
Yeah, I texted Kaysen yesterday and I was like, there's only 5 months until week 0 college football.
Well, I mean, like as soon as football season essentially happens, the second college football of 25 comes out, right? So it's like,
pretty much,
right.
Yeah.
Matt, do you have a jersey on? I was going to ask you this.
Yeah, I'm wearing a Chelsea shirt,
That's cool.
It's Reece James.
Nice. Nice. I wondered, I wondered, I'm like, looks like a Premier League.
Yeah.
The only
Yes.
other thing that I would just mention was that the one of the larger things kind of hanging over the head of free agency was L'Jarius Sneed's trade request that it eventually got granted, and he's going to the Titans, which I guess good for you, dude. But was anybody else confused by that? The Chiefs paid him. The Chiefs tagged him, and so he got paid a ton of money, and then he demanded to be traded. And I'm like, dude, why do you not want to play for the back-to-back Super Bowl champion Chiefs? You want to play for
Right.
the bottom of the league Titans?
Well, his return wasn't even that much. Wasn't it like a 3 and a 7 or something like that?
Yeah, for literally nothing. It was
Right.
it
Super weird.
was
Yeah.
yeah, it
Definitely.
was not that much for how good
Definitely
of a player
weird.
he
I will
is.
say again, maybe something inside we don't know. Like, and honestly, real seriousness when it comes to like all three of us will never know what it's like to be a professional athlete, right? In like that part of your career where you've won a title, you're making all sorts of money. Nothing about your life is even sort of like the average Americans. I would just imagine knowing myself that it's way easier to demand to leave after you've already won the Super Bowl. It's
Oh, yeah.
like I was a part of the dynasty. Like to do it all again, yeah, sure, that would be fun. But like now I care about money for the rest of my career.
Yeah.
I forget who it was. I think it was Eric Hosmer comes to mind. Eric Hosmer like won the World Series with that legendary Royals team, and then was just got a bag from the Padres at a time when they weren't very good. I honestly don't know if he's even with them anymore. But I thought to myself, he was part of that like run, and now it's like rather than stay, or I could just go to San Diego, incredible place as we know, Kaysen, uh, and make all this money. And no, I don't care if I win the World Series again. I really don't, because I already did it. You know, ironically, also a Kansas City team. Anyway, you get what I mean? Like, I can see that.
Mhm.
You know,
I agree.
just playing
I
devil's
would,
advocate.
get
on
as
that
much
one.
money as possible after I get a ring.
Yeah, like I got like you do in the head. It's like okay, I got the ring, I got the thing we all play for. And if you get two of them, that's even easier. Now it's like okay, where do I want to live? Where do I want to make money? Like, so I don't know.
Go hang out in Nashville and count bags of money. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, maybe he has a good friend that used to play with on that team. We don't know. Like, maybe not on the Titans, but I don't know. Just trying to play devil's advocate as much as I can.
Sure.
Anyway, is it time for of the weeks, gentlemen?
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right. I won't. Someone else start because
I will start. I'll start with something that is really only relevant to me, at least here on the show.
sure.
I will go with robbery of the week. So I will say my wife's alma mater, uh, Delaware, Delaware Hayes High School. They were in the Ohio State Final Four for basketball, and they lost by I think it was 1 to St. Ignatius, who ended up winning the state championship. So anybody who doesn't know, there's a huge like feud. Matt knows what I'm talking about. There's just a huge like I guess uh I guess you could say rivalry with public schools and private schools like that,
Yeah.
because they like openly just recruit players. And so
Oh, every city has the same thing. Yep.
everybody that when like a public high school like that loses to a school that just openly recruits, you're just like, how is this fair? Like
Everyone in Pittsburgh,
how are
Central
we
Catholic,
competing?
same thing.
Yeah, it's just it's a joke. And so uh yeah, so my robbery of the week is the Delaware was robbed. By St. Ignatius.
Fire the OHSAA.
Yeah, the OHSAA is rigged.
Is that what Ohio's like long acronym for like the high school sports is?
Yeah.
In Pennsylvania, it's called the WPIAL. It's like the Western something Pennsylvania, whatever. And it literally it spells out the phrase WPIAL. So everyone just calls it the WPIAL. something Western Pennsylvania League or whatever. I have a robbery of the week, and it's to the officials in the Kansas Sanford game. for robbing the game
Yeah.
from Samford, SoCon champions, on an incredible block by you know what? I don't have it in front of me. It'll take too long to talk about it, but one of the best blocks I've ever seen in a basketball game was called as a foul, and Kansas won as a part of it, only to turn around and lose their next game in what is probably the weakest Kansas team in years. So the Samford Bulldogs should have at least made it to the second round. Robbery of the week. It's one of mine.
Also true. Yes, very true.
And basketball. Matt.
Can I do one?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I
We'll go
have
around.
I have a Dos Acero of the week.
Hey.
The United States men's national soccer team beat Mexico to win the CONCACAF Nations League last night, and it was Dos Acero.
I actually, one of my shot of the week goes to Tyler Adams. In that game, if you don't know what I'm talking about, that was incredible. That was one of the better goals I've seen in a long time.
Oh yeah.
Kaysen's chuckling.
I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it.
Kaysen, what do you have?
I guess we'll just get into it. And I will go ahead and say article of the week.
Most
Or
anticipated article.
article tease of the week, and that goes to the Washington Post. For I guess announcing that there is an article coming that is supposedly going to be a deep dive into LSU women's basketball coach Kim Mulkey, into her activities. I'm assuming. I don't know what precisely is going to be the bombshell in this, but she ended up reading like a written statement at a press conference and saying that she's going to sue them, and this is why people don't trust the media and things like that.
That's what innocent people say, definitely.
Yeah, of which the things that we know about Kim Mulkey, I am very curious to see what she thinks is in this article that she doesn't want to get out.
I mean, you guys would agree with me. She denied this with such vigor and such aggression that, like you just said, Matt,
the article's not even out. What is she denying?
Article's not even out, and you sound like a guilty person. I don't know what is like so horrible that and also Washington Post, very credible source, up there with the Times in terms of their credibility. So
my favorite part is that she's like she's trying to say that the Washington Post shocked them all with announcing this hit piece on her, while also she was saying this particular person has been trying to get her into an interview for 2 years to talk about this story.
Right.
And so she's like, she's dodged this reporter for 2 years and is like, they caught me off guard with this hit piece.
Well, right. Exactly. I mean, when journalistic integrity. I can't speak. You want to reach out to the source as well, and you present it multiple times, and you wait a decent amount of time, but eventually you want to put out what you're writing. Is it was like that whole process of makes me think of the Deadspin guys talking about the Manti Te'o story. Like, we reached out several times into multiple family members for comment on this, and we were ignored a bunch of times. And we weren't going to wait too long to do it. And I remember watching that documentary. I'm referring to the Netflix documentary on him. And I'm thinking to myself, sounds like no one had this story but you guys. So, and literally no one did. Literally no one had that story. So, but them. So yeah, it just sounds like the normal process. I think, now, do we know when that's supposed to come out? Or is it?
I haven't seen anything.
I forget who tweeted about it, but they said that it might be next week, which would be like this week now. But who knows?
Maybe leading into that Iowa LSU game.
You would think that they're trying to time it with the tournament, yeah.
Or if they win that game, the Final Four,
As a guy who loves drama, I need it like immediately. This is excellent.
He needs the tea.
That's right.
You are a big fan of tea, Matt. You will, and I mean this. I love you, so I want you to take this in a loving way. You will text Kaysen and I about a story that has very doesn't have little merit, but to me is so insignificant that I'm like, this is a big deal to Matt. And it's like, okay, it's a tea story. And that's the one commonality they always have.
Oh, yeah.
And I love you for that because like you're one of those fans that adds narratives where they really don't need to be added. And with what I do, like really fans like you at times like drive me nuts, but also at the same time, like I love fans like you for that. Like, how does this affect my team? Not at all, but I'm gonna make it somehow.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, um, on kind of those lines, I have another of the week, guys, that I would like to talk to us about, and among another kind of thing that's very interesting conversation around. But um, how do you put this? Potential historical scandal of the week. This Shohei interpreter story is very fascinating, as Major League Baseball has opened an investigation into Shohei Ohtani's interpreter. His name is Ippei Mizuhara.
That was
And
how I would pronounce it. Yeah.
yeah, that's how I best pronunciation I can. Uh, we don't know all the details right now, other than it's alleged that he's used a lot of the money he's taken directly in lieu of, both given to him because of and from show in a international gambling kind of thing via a bookmaker, which I heard someone say this today, but I kind of wanted to wrap it in a different way to make it my own. Could this potentially be the biggest sports gambling um scandal since I don't know what Pete Rose at an era where
I mean, I would say it
gambling's
is.
everywhere
It,
through
it 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 is the biggest baseball
potentially
gambling
baseball for
scandal.
sure,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like in sports, just because Pete Rose, one of the greatest ever in his sport, isn't in the Hall of Fame and was completely ousted because of gambling in his era,
yeah,
which gambling was seen differently in those days and the way he did it, and obviously it's a whole thing that even I say Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame, especially with
yeah.
the way gambling is now, right now, like in history, like it's never been a more unprecedented time for sports gambling. Um, and trust me, as living in a state like North Carolina that just had it legalized, you cannot escape it in any realm of life. As every app has entered at once, it's the first ad you see on every single. It doesn't matter if you're a sports fan
Yeah.
or not; it's inescapable. And this is just so fascinating to me because one, we don't know necessarily what they're going to find out, but I also don't know necessarily how this affects their relationship. But
So
yeah,
I guess if you wanna look at what at least we think we understand of the situation, most of the confusion and controversy regarding the situation comes from the fact that the details changed overnight. Like, so the story originally broke because I think it was the FBI was investigating this illegal bookmaker, which California doesn't do, like sports app betting, like a FanDuel, or they don't do that. And so
it's not legal yet.
I, I don't know if it will be ever. I don't know. For some reason, they just don't like the apps and stuff like that. So there is a big problem with illegal bookmakers in California for that reason. And so the FBI was investigating this bookmaker, and of the names that turned up in the banking information, it was Shohei's information, and that led them to Ippei,
Mm-hmm.
of which the original story that came out was them just saying, yeah, Ippei has a gambling problem and Shohei just paid a debt for him. But then Ohtani's camp really quickly learned, wait a minute, did we just admit that Shohei paid an illegal bookie $4.5 million?
Yeah, it was like
So then the story changed to Ippei stole it. And so then there's been this huge conversation over Ippei's been lying to him during his translations and has been withholding information, or it's been this huge thing over them really pushing the narrative that Ippei was lying, of which Matt, I know you sent me some more information, but it is seemingly more plausible now because it turns out that everything Ippei has ever said was a lie.
Yeah, so he said that he graduated from UC Riverside in California in 2007, and they have no record of that.
yep.
And he said that he worked for the Red Sox for Hideki Okajima from like 2000, maybe that was 2007, 2007 to 2011. But there's no record of that within the Red Sox organization.
of which, by the way, this is more of an indictment on the Angels that you let some con man be around your franchise cornerstone for how many years? He said he worked for for the Red Sox for 5 years, and you don't call the Red Sox?
Yeah, like
Right.
the more this is like unraveled and the weirder this has gotten. Again, the fact that it's interpretation in with the international aspect of this doesn't help in terms of our information collecting. That being said, it's almost like is this a fall man situation, or is this guy just like the next Santos but in baseball? Like, are we talking like that kind of levels of lying here? I don't know. It's can we believe anything that is said is what I mean.
Yeah, I mean
Just very bizarre.
the fact this guy is the George Santos of baseball is really funny.
Well, I just kind of said. I mean, I just kind of threw that comparison out there, but
this is a scandal. I almost wonder, this is literally the scandal baseball needs to like at a time when baseball has never been more irrelevant to society. We all of a sudden get the most insane story to come out with. The face of the face of the league,
the face of the sport, sport in every country
yeah, the face of the sport is embroiled in a gambling scandal because his interpreter is George Santos. Like, what is going on?
That honestly could be like a movie if it's like, yeah,
this is going to be a movie. I promise you that.
Or the basis of a fictional movie. I'd watch that. I don't know.
Give me the heroes guy as the interpreter at the beach.
Yeah,
hilarious.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll see. I mean, more stuff's coming out about it all the time. I do definitely believe this narrative of baseball's trying to just kind of under the rug this kind of thing until the start of the season, because technically the season's already started because the Padres and Dodgers played like a series over in Korea. So
yeah.
I mean, technically there's already games in the book for them. So who knows? We'll find out. But stick a pin in that, listeners, viewers, because if you don't know what we're talking about, one, not surprised if you're not a baseball fan, but two, definitely look into it because it's nuts. Like it's crazy. And,
yeah, and I think that the reason for I guess perspective, the reason this is such a big deal is because the MLB is like the one league that actually has an established precedent for a situation like this.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's definitely a problem for Rob Manfred when the face of the sport is currently in a position to where he might have to be banned from the league 3 months after getting $700 million.
Yeah, after signing the biggest contract in the history of American sports.
So that's the perspective in which it's like, wait, what?
Yeah. Well,
so also I think if the league wants to not have to worry about maybe as much punishment as what the I guess precedent that was set was, let Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame. Yeah, I mean, if they would just do that, that would kind of make their expectations of punishment go away.
Well, it's not just Hall of Fame. Relinquish his lifetime ban, because I just think that I'm going to be watching this story very closely because I'm not a sports gambler, never really have been, never probably will be, because I like having worked in the industry as long as I have. I just don't necessarily see the fun in it, quite frankly. But I understand why it's gotten so popular, but also the whole precedent of how we look at all gambling, not just sports gambling now, has gotten to be such a, like, they sell it in such a way to where it's like a moonlighting thing, to where it's like the conversations are going to have to be like, if we're going to have one league set a precedent, we're going to need every league to set whatever their precedent is. But the precedent that is set right now that you're referring to, Kason, does not reflect what society sees it as right now. And if you're going to just wave a magic wand and Shohei's not gotten anything wrong with him, if that is what is found out, well, then let Pete Rose back in. I don't know, and officially kind of exonerate him, like don't let him be the sacrificial figure for this in the past of sports, like he's had to be since it happened. that or tweak
Mhm.
your integrity rules. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
that is a source of a compromising of the integrity of a sport. I've always believed that. It's just, does it warrant lifetime ban? I've never thought that. Anyway,
You do not get the right to assert a lifetime ban from the league for sports gambling while you have an official sports book of the league. Like you just don't get to do that.
no. And seemingly every sports brand has a sports book now.
It's objectively very very dumb when the NFL has been dealing with this too, where like when they have to suspend a guy for 6 games because he bet on his college team from the parking lot of the facility.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's a giant FanDuel sign in the parking lot of the facility. Like
Yeah.
what God, like what are we doing here? Like
Yeah.
I mean, to me, common sense is not allowed to bet on the league or in games that you're in. But if you want to bet on your college, like whatever, like what does that matter?
Sure. Matt, any thoughts?
I agree with what Kaysen was saying there at the end. If it doesn't impact you, I guess don't worry about it. I mean, I still think that. So as a guy that also roots for the Reds, like Pete Rose is complicated because it's like on one hand, obviously one of the all-time greats, obviously a Cincinnati great, all that stuff, but he did bet on baseball, and like that's a little bit worse to me. But I still think that like how can he not be in the Hall of Fame? How can like Barry Bonds isn't in the Hall of Fame either, right?
No.
Like, and I understand that steroids is a different
Steroid era
conversation,
guys are
but
not in there.
but to me, like you can't tell the story of baseball without guys like Pete Rose, guys like Barry Bonds, eventually probably guys like Shohei Ohtani. So they have to be recognized, you know.
I mean, didn't I mean, I guess I don't know the exact specifics of the Pete Rose thing. Maybe you do, Matt, but it's not like he bet against the Reds.
No, he claims
Right.
he always bet on himself winning.
Which
Which is a
what
baller
does that
move.
matter? Like if I'm Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes and I'm like hammer my over on yards, what that's me betting on myself. Like
That was the
Right.
comedic timing on that was incredible, Matt. Just which was a baller move.
like that's the one thing where it's like if you're betting on your team to win, what does that matter? Like it's not like you're
Right.
throwing games. Like
Right, exactly. But I mean, there's no easy way to prove that, obviously, and all that. You don't want anyone. You shouldn't bet on the thing you're directly
well, of course
financially.
not.
You should never bet on the. If we could all just collectively say, hey, listen, betting's fine as long as you don't bet on the direct thing that like your direct paycheck is in, it's coming from, whatever it is. It happens to be sports or not. So, yeah, that's my societal thing. But yeah, that was. But anyway, I will. A question for Matt then. Because Matt, I don't know if you're more of a Tigers fan than a Reds fan. I don't know if that matters with this question, but whatever. It sounds like you might actually kind of agree with the disassociation of him from the game because he did that, but like let him in the Hall of Fame, or is it the other way around?
I mean, I think that you could like let him in with an asterisk or something.
I mean, I
Like-
think he deserves to be in there way more than the steroid era guys, but like,
Sure.
but you know, baseball's been pretty blanket. Nope. I mean, having been to
Right.
Cooperstown, their process to get in is also extremely tough. So, with the writers and everything, and I kind of like the Baseball Hall of Fame for that, but I was just curious
Yeah, that's fair.
if you felt some type of way, one way or another. So
Right.
I don't have.
I'll,
Go ahead.
Oh, I have like 4 more. Is that bad?
No, go for it.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll do a couple quick
I'm
ones.
out of mine because I knew mine were going to
So-
take a while to talk about.
Yeah, some of mine are not super in depth. So my next one is the 9-0 in the MAC baseball team of the week.
Hey,
Any guesses? Any guesses?
I'm slightly maneuvering.
It's Bowling Green.
It is.
Let's go, boys.
Yes,
There-
shellacking of the week, 34-8. Bowling Green
Yes.
beat Ball State in baseball. That was
Yes,
something.
that was amazing. Yeah. So Kaysen's pointing at his hat. One of the better players on the team. His name's DJ Newman. He went to our high school.
Cool. I didn't know that.
So,
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's
He
a
was
monster.
awesome at football and baseball.
And there's another pitcher on the team. I'll shout him out too. Rigo Ramos also went to Archbold.
That's
Um,
very cool.
I'll
Is
do
that a
another one quick.
is that a natural pipeline or no?
Kind of. I mean,
Our baseball program's always been really good. We've had several guys go
Recently.
from our program. Our old baseball coach went to Bowling Green, and so there was
And-
always sort of a connection.
Cool.
played baseball there and might have. I don't know. Did he play basketball too? I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't know.
But anytime we go to a Bowling Green sporting event, I always take a picture of him and send it to Case and I say he's here.
I kid you not. We literally play Where's Waldo with the guy because he's going to be there.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we went to the bowl game. We were walking around the
made some
concourse
comment
at Ford
about it,
Field.
and we saw him at Ford Field like 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
That's
Let's find
awesome.
him.
Shout out that dude.
So another real quick one. I have day of the week this week. It's Thursday. Because we have the Sweet 16 opening day and the first day of the NCAA hockey tournament. So it's gonna be a good one.
That is good. Another reason to love March as a sports month.
Speaking of the NCAA ice hockey tournament, joke of the week, the NCAA ice hockey tournament.
Explain yourself.
Matt would probably know more, but they're hosting a regional at like a 2,500 seat practice arena in Maryland. It was in Maryland or where
It's
is
in
it?
Missouri. So
Or Missouri?
I forget who the host school is for it, but they're hosting, and I think it's the Midwest Regional, and it's Michigan, Michigan State, North Dakota, and Western Michigan, which is like an awesome, like interesting
like
regional.
literally one of the best regional matchups ever, and it's
Right.
tickets
And
are like $600 a piece.
Yeah, it's in an arena that's like half the size of ours on campus. Like it's crazy.
Ours as in Slater family.
Yeah.
Gotcha. At Bowling Green. Gotcha. For the people who don't know what ours is.
Yeah. The NCAA ice hockey tournament is their regional choices are always just ridiculous. Like it never makes sense.
I guess shout out for incredible decision making of the week. I love the fact that the women's March Madness tournament begins on stadium locations. That's incredible to me. I've always thought that like makes both upsets and home wins that much more electric. And I've always wondered what it would be like if the men's tournament did the same.
Yeah.
Like some of those, like obviously you want to make sure you maximize the fans and everything in the neutral locations, but one of the things about a specific tournament that is only done in the women's tournament, I know it happens in other sports too, where those happen, but for the NCAA tournament games, I've always loved that.
Mm-hmm.
You can keep going, Matt.
Am I still going?
Yeah,
you're both still out.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're good, man.
All right. What else? Bite of the week. Did you hear about this one?
You say bite?
Bite, BITE, bite of the week.
Okay.
So I'll give you a little rundown here. In the UFC this week, there's a guy named Igor Severino.
Oh, okay.
In the second round of his fight against Andre Lima, he bit his arm, and there was like a giant like bite mark, teeth mark on his arm. And so the biter got cut by the UFC before the end of the night, and the other guy that got bit got his got his bite tattooed on his arm, like filled it in with like ink, I guess. I don't know.
That's incredible, actually.
So Dana White saw it on Instagram and gave him a $50,000 bonus. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, if there's any like commissioner or sports president, whatever you want to say, that would basically give out meme bonuses, it would be Dana White.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes me. Didn't Mike Tyson bite off Holyfield's ear? Makes me wonder if he would gotten a piercing with like in like the spot.
My brother told me, and I don't know necessarily how all fighting works, but my brother told me that the guy that made the decision to end the fight then was the same guy that was the official in charge of the Holyfield and Tyson fight as well.
Oh, that's crazy.
So he had seen that before and knew what was coming, and he was just like, "That's the end of the fight."
Wow. Okay.
Which is wild.
I just kind of threw that out there. I didn't realize that was.
I know.
Wow. Okay. He's like, "Oh, I've seen this before. We have to stop this madness."
Yeah. Right. Okay,
That's
and I'll do my
hilarious.
last one here. It's kind of just a nice little quick one. So the legacy of the week is Jerome Bettis Jr., who is following in his father's footsteps. He just committed to play football at Notre Dame this week. So I thought that
That's-
was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. Now, isn't his
Wow.
son like his son is not a isn't his son like a wide receiver or something?
Yeah, it's not like exactly the same thing. I could look him up real fast.
I know. I mean, he's not built like Jerome, is what I'm getting at here. So
He's like 6'2", 215.
yeah, he's not like an absolute like bus like his father was. And the reason I point that out is because people always wonder. It's sort of like how Joey Porter Jr. is not built like his dad. He's a cornerback, you know. So it's he's his own position. So we're not seeing a bus 2.0 here, but
Yeah, he's 6'2", 190. So not quite.
no. So there you go. But he is junior, right? He's Jerome Bettis Jr.
Yes. Yep.
Cool. Shout out Jerome Bettis Jr. Shout out Notre Dame, and shout out Jerome Bettis Jr. for doing what Marvin Harrison Jr. should have done in going to your dad's alma mater, even if it's not like the most NFL prowess, because Marvin Harrison Jr. should have gone to Syracuse. Like
I was gonna say, I wonder what's causing you to say that.
yeah. That's that. Those were good. Those were more wholesome of the weeks than I had, Kate or Matt. And as the guest, I really like the to kind of cool things off after the
Sure.
conversations we had. No more of the weeks, right, Casey?
Yeah, I am out.
You're out. I'm out as well. Matt, thank you so much for joining us for yet another episode, man.
Yeah, of course. It was a good time.
Now, I've been wondering something. Where did the Bowling Green neon sign behind you come from?
I think it was either a birthday or a Christmas gift from my in-laws.
Cool. Gotcha. 'Cause
So, yeah.
I asked that because I don't know if that was that there when your first appearance? I feel like it was.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And I remember thinking, I got to ask him that because I don't know where you're sitting necessarily, but like
Sure.
that corner looks tailor-made, sort of like ours for the talking head space behind you.
Yeah, I had to move some stuff around. I can send you some pictures of the room offline if you want to. But
Actually, that would
I had to I had to move the chair and finagle some things around. The room is not pretty behind the camera, but on camera I had to make it work. So
gotcha. In other words, do you move that stuff for the times you've been on the show? Okay.
Yep.
Just trying to make that straight. That's
yeah. This stuff is all here, but the chair that I'm in gets moved, and I have a TV tray and all that. So
cool. And a healthy amount of Buckeye items. I do have one more question. What is the helmet up there? Is that like a action?
It's a like full size like replica. It's an Ohio State helmet, but
is it like a replica or is it like a full on helmet?
It's I don't know. It's not like thick. It doesn't have like the like ear pads and like pads that go all around on the inside. But
okay, so it's not like a real
size.
helmet. It's not like a regulation helmet.
Right. You couldn't put it on and get tackled by somebody. No.
Gotcha.
I mean, you could, but it'd be bad.
I can't show it on the thing here, but I think I've shown you both. I have a signed Palomalu helmet for the Steelers, which is like totally hollow inside. It's just for display, but it is signed by Troy. I won at an auction. So and Kaysen, I will always point out one of the coolest things you have behind you is the Slater Family Ice Arena outline that the folks all signed right there. Yep. Incredible. So that's been Junction 119 number episode 50. Thanks again, Matt, for joining us. You have the floor if there's anything you want to say at the end of I usually do that. Anything the guest wants to say, talk about. Oh.
Yeah, I should just shout out my wife and my son for letting me come hang out with you guys for 2 hours and talk sports and all that stuff. So love those guys.
Cool. Sorry, my mic like literally disconnected. So
you're good.
Thank you for taking the the baton and running with it. Kaysen, any final thoughts?
Looking forward to another great week of March Madness.
Yes. Closing out one of the best months in sports. I had someone recently tell me don't sleep on April because April you do get the beginning of baseball, but you also get the Masters, which is a lot of fun. You also get the start of Stanley Cup playoffs.
And
in the NBA, we're correct. So I'm like, that might be my new official number 3 favorite sports month. Number 1 is October still. But All right. Well, thank you all so much, everyone, for listening, watching. Everyone, Matt, for being here, for making all 50 episodes. I will close out by saying thank you again, Podbean, for sending me the 50th congratulations thing on our last episode, since I was technically in the books, our 50th episode. But officially, number 50 is now in the books. So until the next one, this is Kellen,
This is Kaysen.
This is Matt.
and we'll see you at the next stop.